So today I'm going to be talking about shifting timelines, how we shift timelines all the time. It's just we've just never been told this information. So with the new information age, now you have all this kind of stuff out here that we can educate ourselves on and learn. And if it makes sense and it works for us, then that's great. You know, 100 years ago, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't know this kind of information. And now it's like, it's all out here, which is crazy, like shifting timelines. Who would have ever thought that we would be talking about that right now? You know what I mean? And it's about applying it too. So we could have all the knowledge in the world, but unless you apply this stuff, it won't do anything. I do that a lot. Honestly, I'm very big with that. Sometimes I talk about a lot of stuff and I know a lot of stuff, but the problem is I don't apply it. So that's the thing. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how much you know about something. If you don't apply it, it don't mean anything. It's not going to work for you. So shifting timelines, every single second that you're moving, like we're moving through space all the time. Every single time you move your hand, you're walking, you're doing anything, you're moving through billion bits of parallel realities every single second. So what that means is everything we do is a parallel reality. So like if you wake up right now, say you're in bed, you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna play on my phone for 20 minutes versus getting up and going to the gym. So you literally, there's like two different realities that is right there, of pure potentiality, and you can choose to be on your phone for 20 minutes or you can choose to get up and go to the gym. So you just created, you know, these two parallel realities, and you'll have a different experience if you go with that one versus the other one. And I remember with my addiction issues, I used this pretty heavy, like, because when you understand what time really is and you get to the quantum physics level of it and you simplify it, of course, so much time is our problem. And the thing is, we use time like our past. We bring up our past for everything. We're creating so much of our present in our past. So like, talk about shifting timelines. If you're constantly talking about what happened, you know, a year ago, if you keep talking about what happened a year ago, keep talking a thing a year ago, you are still in that frequency. You are still on that vibration. Whatever you talk about, you instantly are in that vibration. Now, what you can do, and it's just a concept, right? So I always say, if a concept like this sounds crazy to you, just listen and open your mind, because sometimes all it takes is one concept to change your life. That's what it took for me. All it took is one concept of the law of attraction and stuff like this, of, you know, creating your own reality using parallel realities. These concepts help me, and hopefully they can help you. And some of them are crazy, I know. Like, a normal person would look at this and be like, you're fucking crazy, Jeremy, you're a nut job. And I would agree if I was on that same position. You know, I would totally think the same thing. Like, yeah, he is a nut job. But we're on different frequencies. Everything in the world is frequencies. So it's like, with shifting timelines, everything you do on a daily basis, you're shifting timelines. So every single time you think of that past thing that you don't want, you're shifting timelines. You're still on that timeline. You're still on that timeline. So why do we always think about the negative? Sometimes it's comfort. A lot of us don't only hear that. And I notice that with myself too. It's like, why am I always putting myself in a certain position sometimes? And sometimes it's comfort. It sounds really messed up, but it's comfort. We like that, you know? So that's why it's harder for us to focus on what we want, because the other thing is, sometimes we don't feel like we deserve it. You know, we feel like, woe is me. Like, why do I need this? Like, there's so many other people that are more deserving than I am. It's because they believe that they're deserving. You know, so you need to start telling yourself, I'm deserving of this. I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to choose a different reality for myself. I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to focus on all the good things that happened in the past. Because when you're focusing on the good things that happened in the past, what you're doing when you're doing that is you're actually putting yourself on that energy level. You're living that every single time. It doesn't exist anymore, but at the same time, you're accessing that past, being in the present and thinking about that. And it's literally creating your entire life of you thinking about all these things in the past. That's why, like, I have a thing over here I wrote. I go, if you don't see your goals daily, you will fall back into unconsciousness and recreate your old reality. And that's why goals are so important, because goals is like, okay, this is where I want to go, right? And you think about that every day. This is where I want to be. What's it going to feel like when I get here? You know? And then you're focused on that, and it keeps you focused. But the second you don't focus on that and you pay attention to everything else, you're going back to where you were before, and then you get back with the old programs. That's why reprogramming yourself can take time, and it can be frustrating. It can be easy too. It just depends how, you know, strong your mind is and how easy it is for you to let go. And part of this whole situation too is learning how to let go of these situations, learning how to let go and be like, you know I've been programmed like this, and I don't want to live this way anymore. So how do I let go of these programs? You know, my parents programmed me this way, and I don't want to be programmed this way. How do I let go of the programs? What can I do? You know, you listen to people like me, and then you get a journal and you write down your programs and what are the negatives of your programs. And you're like, well, how can I release these programs so I can put myself in a better position? Because a lot of things that we go through on a day-to-day basis is programs. And the same thing with shifting timelines. I mean, the second it's all about being in the present moment. The present moment is when you change everything. Because when you're in the present, when you think about the past and you think about the future, you're thinking about it all in the present moment. The present moment is powerful, very powerful. Because if you're actually consciously aware in the present moment, then you can pick and choose which thoughts and which emotions you want. So you can be like, oh, I don't like that. That doesn't make me feel good, that emotion. So which emotion am I going to pick? And then you have goals. This is why you have goals. So you're like, oh, I have this goal. This would be great. So if I'm in a bad mood, you know, I have this goal that I would like to accomplish. It could help a lot of people. It'll help myself too. So I'll just feel being in that goal, or acting as if it's already there, not knowing how it's going to happen, but just acting as if it's already there. Because if you think about it, why would we keep thinking about these negative things that's happened in our life that might have happened 10 years ago that doesn't exist anymore? It's not here anymore. Yeah, I'm not going to say that the troubles aren't there and that, you know, it depends how bad the situation is. I'm not saying, you know, ignore it. You need to feel everything. But the thing is, you need to let go. That's the big thing, is you need to feel your emotions with these tragic events and these things that has happened, but then you need to learn to let go, because you can never overcome those situations until you forgive it and you let go of it. Talk about shifting timelines. I remember when I had a drug problem, it was very bad. I heard these concepts about, you know, shifting timelines and not believing certain timelines, like not believing certain things that happened in my past and recreating them in my own mind. And I did that, and it worked. It was like really crazy. I remember one time my friend was not doing good. He was in England. He was, you know, me and him both did substances together, and he was not doing too good. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to use this timeline stuff, and it's all in your head. So I just remember I wouldn't talk to him anymore. I'm like, you know, I need to distance myself, because if this is going to work, I can't be in contact. So I distanced myself, and not every day, because you don't want to obsess about it and get in from your own way. But, you know, like every week I'd be like, you know, I see him being fully employed, having a good place to stay, being financially in a good spot, being happy. And that's what I would do every week, is I would just see that. So it's almost like going into a parallel dimension, going in a different timeline, because this is the timeline we're currently experiencing. And I'm over here like, I'm going to create this different timeline, because I believe that we can create anything we want. And you know, if people are really unconscious, it's easier to help them along the way because they're unconscious. Now that can be difficult, because don't manipulate people. And that's the other thing, is you always agree with free will. Don't ever get in front of anyone's free will. Karma will bite you in the ass. Never do that. So that's what I did. You know, for about 6 months, every week I just saw him the way I wanted to see him, the way I thought he should be. And I didn't think about it too much. And then 6 months later, he gets in contact with me. He's like, I got a girlfriend. I got a new job. It's going to be very lucrative for me. I have a place to stay. I'm happy. I'm doing awesome. And I was like, that's crazy. Because this person also had a drug problem. And anybody who has drug problems, if you're listening to this right now, you know that is almost impossible to kick. It's very, very hard. Especially coming from me. Very, very, very hard to kick. So the fact that that happened, that's like a timeline thing that I went and did, right? Where I just saw him the way I wanted him to be. Because the thing is, we take reality so solid. We believe reality is such a solid thing that when someone tells you something, that's what they're telling you. And they mean it. When it's like, yeah, but you know, I can go in my head and rearrange that conversation as if it happened in a better situation, in a better way, and see a positive and not get bogged down by the negative conversation I had. Because what if that person's having a bad day, and then you're doing that, you're putting this positive energy out to them, and then whatever you put out has to come back. So if you're putting positive energy out to somebody at some point in time, that has to come back to you. And I remember when my parents said, they told me, like, you have to be 1 year sober. You have to be 1 year sober in order to get into the house. And at the time, you know, I was like, I finally had it. It was the worst run I ever had with substances. And I was in a bad spot, you know, living in a trailer. Nothing against trailers, but, you know, the concept, you know, living in a trailer. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I remember all the stuff that I was taught. And then I decided to apply it. I was like, I'm going to focus on the things I do want in life. Like, I ignored, like, talk about timelines. Like, I have all these timelines where it's like, oh, you're an addict. You've been doing it for 6 years. Once an addict, always an addict. You went to rehab 3 times, to outpatient 4 times. You have a bad problem. You can't get over it. Once an addict, always an addict. And all these negative things. And it's just like, you wonder why people relapse all the time in addiction. And, you know, you're going to always have to go to a meeting every single day for the rest of your life. And that stuff always just made me depressed. It made me want to use every single time I went to those meetings. And what ended up happening is I applied the timeline technique, the shifting timeline technique, where I'm like, I don't agree with that. That was then, this is now. That doesn't even exist right now to me. The only thing that exists right now is here and now. That's it. So what I did is I was like, my parents are going to let me move into the house with them. There was no ands, ifs, or buts. Like, I was in a very ecstatic state. I was very happy because I was changing my life. I felt amazing. And I knew I needed to get another job. I knew I was going to get, you know, go live with my parents again, get another job, you know, and do everything I need to do. And of course, be sober. And a week later, parents let me move in with them, got another job, making more money than I ever had in my entire life at that point, and moving in with my parents. So I did that. And that's pretty much like the short end of the addiction story, and how I used the timelines, you're shifting timelines to do that. You do it all in your head. Your head is a giant computer. So it's like, if you're going through some shit right now and you're not in a good mood, see the way it's going in your head, right? The way in your head it's going right now. What you need to do now is shift. You need to see it the way you want to see it. Like, if you have someone who's upset with you, retract that. Imagine that you guys had a good time. You had a good time, there was no beef, and that's it. Like, just imagine that and think about that. And don't think about the fact that you may have had some beef and had a bad time. Because the more you focus on that, you're literally creating that in your life. So what you focus on is what you create. It's the law of the universe. It's the law of attraction. You're on that frequency. When you're on the frequency of being scared and upset because the situation happened and you and your friend aren't doing too good, if you're on that frequency and you keep thinking about that and you're emotionally involved in that, it's going to continue. But if you switch it and you're like, you know what? I refuse to see it happen that way. You know, we had a bad day. What's called the art of revision. Neville Goddard's the guy that does this, the art of revision. And then just revise the way that day happened and make it the perfect way it could possibly have happened. And then believe it, and then just let it go and live your life. Because then what you're doing is you're raising your vibration to that level. You're raising your vibration to what you know happened. So you can literally, it's like, I call it white magic. You can literally shift realities like that. It's a concept that I think is so cool, and I need to use it more often, but it's one of those concepts with shifting reality, how like reality is not fluid. We just think it's fluid. We got so much shit every day that's bombarding us, to telling us how fluid it is. Politics, inflation, anything you can think of, all these deaths, the media, everything. It makes you feel like you're living in such a dense 3D world, when in reality, that's also manipulating you and you're helping create that world for the people that want you to create that world for them, because our consciousness is that powerful. There was a thing that they did, that the news media did, I forget when, but bear with me. I remember they made a fake, it was like a fake news article about like 1,200 people died at this event in like some part of Africa, started fighting or whatever. And it was fake, right? It was a fake news article. And what ended up happening is a couple days later, that story came true. And that just goes to show you how powerful your mind is. If you get enough minds together, you can literally create a reality. That's like for news media, for instance. You can see that, especially with news media, where they get groups and groups and groups of people to pretty much do all their bidding work, and to get all upset and to do a whole bunch of stuff and do a whole bunch of protesting and marching and all that stuff, and then go online. And so, you know what I mean? It's like you got a whole group consciousness that does that, and then you can control that group consciousness, and you control it through fear. So everything's a vibration. Fear is a vibration. Now you can do it in the opposite, where Buddhist monks, I think I forget, Thailand, where they did this thing where, I don't know if they did it here in the United States. They might have done it here in the United States, but I know there's a couple 100,000 of them. And they meditated for world peace. They just meditated. And for an entire week. And in that entire week, for that entire week, crime went down 60%. It's crazy what you can do when you get enough people involved, enough minds involved, and you have an intention on something. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully I went into, shifting timelines enough. I know I went off a little bit there, but sometimes I just, if I'm talking and it just comes off, I just keep going. So hopefully this is a good video. Hopefully this is a good video. I appreciate you guys texting and telling me if it was good or if I went all over the place or whatnot. If it helped you, please share this with others that you think it will help too. And I will see you in the next.